Welcome to She Considers a Field podcast with coach, encourager, and fellow entrepreneur and homeschooling mama of four, Anna McLaughlin. As a homeschooling entrepreneur, you are uniquely positioned to impact the kingdom of God both deep through your investment in your children and wide through your business. And yet guilt, frustration, and overwhelm can hold you back from all that God has for you. Come with me on a journey to walk in deeper peace, purpose, and joy, because God has given you a legacy to build, and I'm here to help you enjoy the ride.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the latest episode of She Considers a Field. Okay, so we have had a lot of awesome conversations going on behind the scenes that are going to be releasing as upcoming interviews. Hopefully you loved the interview from last week with Kaylee Weichbrot. She is just, she's the best. And if you didn't hear it, go check out how to have unshakable joy in the midst of incredibly difficult circumstances. Kind of like a no matter what God. Sound a little familiar? Maybe we've got one of those in our lives. Okay, so today we're going to talk about something that has been really precious for me, for y'all, 2 decades, 22 years of sweet moments with the Lord in the form of annual birthday presents. Now, I'm a gifts girl. That's one of my love languages. Not the only one, but one of my love languages. So when I was 19 years old, my birthday was my first week away at college. And having been a birthday girl all my life, having been into the presents and the celebration and all the things, and my mom would do it up with me. It's awesome. It was really scary for me to think of being gone. The day of my birthday, I'm on a hiking trip with 5 or 6 other freshmen and a couple upperclassmen in the beautiful Boundary Waters area, and feeling a little sad, but I've decided I'm just going to take Jesus with me on my birthday, and I'm going to let it be a wonderful experience. And I notice as the day progresses, there's this butterfly that's everywhere that I am. This one butterfly, it's on my bag, it's on my leg, it's on my backpack when I take it off. It's on my backpack when I put it back on again. It was like unmissable, to the point where the other kids were like, what the heck is up with this butterfly? And over time, I realized that's my gift. God with me on my birthday. In the years that have followed, I have asked the Lord for a birthday gift every year. And every year he has given me a unique yes in response to that question. So I thought to myself, my birthday's not for a couple of months. If you want to celebrate, feel free. But I was thinking to myself, my people, their birthdays are all different times. We need to talk about this, because ultimately the heart behind this podcast is to kind of call you out in greater fullness, call you higher. Go, I'm going to be braver with my life. I'm going to just drink deep from all the goodness that God has for me. And ultimately, the only way we can do that is at the feet of the Father. So here's one of my practices that has been so grounding to me over the years, and I wanted to invite you into it too. So how do we do this? There's not much to it. What's the practice I can offer you? You ask the Lord. And if this is a new practice for you, I'm going to recommend right now, get out your phone, set a reminder that repeats every year for a week or 2 before your birthday, reminding you to ask the Lord for a birthday gift. Okay. And then I'm intentional to set aside some time. Sometimes it's my birthday day. Other times I'm asking him a week or 2 beforehand. Ask him, what do you have for me this year? And then hold fast to what he gives you. I've started a practice of actually keeping a log. I have a sheet in my Bible, a page in my Bible, where I just write down, we do birthday gift and then word for the year. And then for Christmas time, I endeavor to give something back to him. That's something that I've started to do. So, but that birthday gift has been so pivotal in my life. And I thought I would share with you just a couple of examples of how this has played out in my life, kind of precious stories to me. So I share just heart to heart with you as a way of encouraging you and inspiring you of what it might look like, especially because it doesn't always look all pretty and rosy, because it's not just about gifts. It's not just about something nice and fun, like the butterfly was very sweet. It's about who we become. Oftentimes, the path to becoming requires a release. It requires a letting go or a death where we say, I'm ready to not be that anymore so that I can be this instead. Okay, so we have to be willing to lay down in order to pick back up again, which means we really need to taste the ashes in our mouths of like, this is not, the old is not what I want any longer. The old no longer serves. The old is the empty tomb. I need their resurrection power. Okay, so a couple of examples in my own life. The year that my dad passed away, he died at the end of September. My birthday's at the beginning of September. The whole month of August was this very challenging, kind of heartbreaking time of feeling very alone. I got COVID for 3 weeks, and one thing that someone told me once that I thought was so profound is she said, whatever feelings that you normally would feel when you're sick, oftentimes all of that emotion is waiting for you as something that was unexperienced during the time because you weren't feeling well enough. Like you couldn't go deep. You were just kind of existing, right? Self-care, rest, nurture, nourishment, sleep, right? And so then when we get up and we start doing life again, we can feel like there's this wall of emotion, this wave of emotion that starts hitting us almost like it's going to knock us over. And as we face that, it can be overwhelming because we start to feel so disrupted and disoriented, especially because we hadn't been feeling at a deep level. And so that's exactly what happened to me. We were supposed to go and visit my dad actually. And instead that week I got sick and I was laid up for 3 weeks. It really just hit me hard. And then, that was it was 2021. So it was in the midst of the time that nobody wanted to really spend time with you if you had COVID. Like it wasn't like it is today where it's like, okay, whatever. And so I was just bopping around by myself at our house, seeing my family, but otherwise not really interacting with people. I had a couple other things come up that I honestly don't even remember anymore, but I felt bereft. I felt like people didn't care about me. I felt alone. I felt, and I think in that time, a lot of us experience this feeling of even though people may have been keeping distance out of a sense of just trying to take care of themselves, there's still a spiritual experience of that loneliness and aloneness that can be really hard to process. And so I felt this deep loneliness. And I was like, Lord, what's going on? Like my birthday's coming up around the corner. I haven't seen anybody in weeks. I feel so lonely. And then the day of my birthday comes and I still wasn't clear in my present. I'm like, Lord, what is it? What do you have for me this year? And he said, and did I hear the audible voice of God? I did not, but I felt in my spirit. And sometimes we can know just by what comes to mind. I felt in my spirit this message: you have always been with me, and all that I have is yours. Well, that's from Luke 15, the parable of the prodigal son. And so I said, oh, Lord, I know I have lived as the prodigal, and I'm so grateful that I'm not there anymore. Or like, I don't remember, to the degree that I've outgrown that, I'm very grateful that I've outgrown it, and like keep sanctifying me. And he says that message was for the elder brother. And it just knocked me flat. Here's the true story of the prodigal. The younger brother is reconciled. It is the elder who has the choice and has not yet chosen. And when we hear the story, to whom is Christ speaking? He's speaking to the Pharisees. He's speaking to the elder brothers in the story and saying, what will you choose? Will you live the life of the beloved? Now, here's what's so fascinating about the way that Jewish culture actually worked. When the younger son said, give me my portion of the inheritance, and it says the father divided the inheritance between them, effectively what the older brother was saying, or what the younger brother was saying, is, I wish you were dead. Let it be as though you had died. And the father bequeathed his holdings to both of his sons. So what's so fascinating, and I think about this all the time now, ever since the Lord gave me this gift 3 years ago now, what's so fascinating about this is it's not just nice language. Literally, the son has always been with the father, and all that the father has actually belongs to the son. So here sits the elder brother at the feet of the father, at the table of the father, at the right hand of the father, in all respects united to the father, And every single possession that the older brother has been taking care of actually is his own. So when he says, you haven't given me this, you haven't even given me this tiny little goat, it was all his, right? It was all his already. And he was living as he was living as a servant, effectively. Well, what did that teach me? I have a place. I have a place at the feet of the Father. He has always been with me, and all that he has belongs to me. That I have a share in his kingdom. And from that, here's the deal. These gifts are not just for you. We talk about in here to through. What he gives to you, he wants to do through you, which is why it is not indulgent to receive big, abundant, lavish, loving, extravagant gifts from God. Because when we receive at that level, that is what we get to give. That is what we have in our hands to offer to other people, where we can look at them and go, you are at his table. He has always been with you, and all that he has is yours, because we've felt it. We've received it. I cannot tell you how that blessing, that Father's blessing, carried me. And God knew that was the month that my dad would die. God knew that was the month where I would go through one of the hardest moments of my life. Being with someone when they cross over to glory is deeply powerful. It's a privilege I can't even describe. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, you don't know. But it's also one of the hardest things. And so to have that Father's blessing, you have always been with me, and all that I have is yours. Walking into that experience was, it took me to a level of trust and dependence that I couldn't manufacture, right? We can't will ourselves to that level of dependence and trust. We can't will ourselves to that level of knowing him. It is grace and it is gift. And that is what that experience taught me. Now, here's the other piece that was waiting on the back end. Guess what happened in the wake of receiving that Father's blessing and truly coming to know you've always been with me, all that I have is yours? All of a sudden, the people were back in my life. That weekend, and this is so, to this day, I'm like, it kind of blows my mind. So for years and years, I had been crying out to the Lord. I would love a mama mentor. I would love someone showing up and pouring into my life. I would love someone kind of choosing me to walk with. Because, of course, in Christian circles, we hear about women being mentored by older women, kind of the Titus 2 model, and how beautiful and precious that is. That very Sunday, literally, I don't know, a couple days later, this beautiful woman of God comes up to me. And I didn't really recognize her. She said we'd met once before. Came up to me in church and said, I've been praying for you for 6 months. I've been watching you, and the Lord has not released me to come up and talk to you until this Sunday. She said, I'm a homeschool mom myself. I've been watching you with your children, and I just wanted to let you know that I love you, and I would be honored to walk alongside you and encourage you. Y'all, I burst into tears and cried on this woman's shoulder. This one, I didn't even know her name at that point, cried on her shoulder. Because what happened? Once I had received the fullness from the Father, once that moment of grace had been released in my life, where I had grabbed hold of that truth, you've always been with me, and all that I have is yours, then I was free to receive from another. But if I had received from her first, what would I have done? Idolatry, right? Idolatry or fear or some sort of like scarcity of like, I have to hold on to this, or I have to behave in a certain way, because I wouldn't have known that this was grace in my life, that there was nothing I could do to mess it up. That doesn't mean we don't sin, but what if we knew that by his grace, what has been given cannot be taken away? And even if it's taken away in the natural, it cannot be stripped in the spiritual, where it really matters. Okay. So all of a sudden, here is this blessing, this extra, because now it wasn't, oh, I just need to kind of hold it together. Can I just have some crumbs here, Lord? It was, I am full. I am cared for. I am held. I am loved. I am fully known. And from that place, I can receive the blessing of another's heart, another's care, another's mentorship, but it won't get all wonky because I know whose I am.
Listen, Mama, with as many different things as you're juggling, I'll bet some days you struggle to remember to eat breakfast. Failing to take care of yourself not only dampens your joy, but it also impacts your ability to serve those you love the most. And yet, you need an easy solution, something that will give you maximum impact without being crazy complicated. Sound about right? Let me share with you my favorite supplement and the only one of its kind, Modaire's Liquid Collagen. Since taking it, I've found more energy, more mental margin, and fewer lines and wrinkles too. My hair is also growing like crazy. One product helps me look better and feel better, and it tastes great too. Interested? Click the link below for a free quiz to figure out which blend is right for you, and then follow the steps to get free shipping and $25 off your order. Because healthy, well-fortified mamas build powerful legacies.
Okay, so that's one of my favorite ones, and one that I have drawn from so often. And even in here, we've talked about you have always been with me, and all that I have is yours. Just the beauty of that promise from Luke 15 and how it can truly play out in our lives. Had another one this past year. Oh, and so this is what I do. So when I get the birthday gift, I write it down and I hold on to it, and it becomes kind of a theme for the year. It becomes like there's the big, I call it like the final exam in August, where it's like, okay, something's roiling, something's moving, something's getting uncovered. What is it? And then from there, there's the blessing that comes from the Lord. And then the remainder of the year is kind of a walking it out. So it has actually started to orient and ground my years. Now, this one I will share with you, and it's personal. I'll just say that right now, but it's not, because it's also yours. Little did you know. Okay, so my birthday last year, it was a big year. I was in the middle of this transition that was starting to come, where I was making this decision to step into more fully this mission statement that I'd had since I first started with my first company 8 or 9 years before, to really walk in the fullness of the mission statement the Lord had given me, which is to encourage and equip a sisterhood of women in establishing a legacy of financial freedom for their families, which, as you know from the title of this podcast, that's totally my heart, right? Let's do the thing. Let's lean in. Let's grow, and let's impact our families as a result, right? So I'm in the middle of this transition, and it was so hard, and it was really just stretching me in huge ways. The crazy piece about it was, while all this was going on, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of like different dynamics. Okay, so in the midst of this transition, there's a lot going on, and we're kind of coming towards the end of August. My birthday's at the beginning of September, and Brian and I hadn't had any conversations about like, hey, what do you want to do for your birthday? Is there anything you want for your birthday? Which we usually have. Now, usually I raise my hand and say, because I've grown in this way, I used to kind of sit back and then get mad that he wouldn't get me what I wanted. And I've learned to kind of raise my hand and say, would you like a couple ideas of things that I would really love? I felt like the Lord gave me a check on that and said, just let it go. Just let it go. And so I started this story in my head of like, what if he forgets my birthday? What if he doesn't know it's my birthday? And we've been married, almost 15 years, like almost 14. So, but I'm like, this story in my head, what if he forgets my birthday? And as the days approach, we're writing a check for something. And he's like, what's the date today? I'm like, and I said the date, and it was September, and it was like coming close to the day. And he kind of stops. He's like, okay, well, we kind of we went on to have a big conversation, and he was like, of course I know when your birthday is, but I just wasn't thinking of what day it was. So here I am in this story of he's forgotten about me. And he felt so devastated because everything that had caused him to not remember what day it was because of his love for me and his commitment and his care in all these other ways. So it was just like this crash of my story of he doesn't care, and his story of caring so much that he's like not even aware of where he is in space and time, which for our guys being more, there's a great book, Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti, right? Brian's in the help Anna through this transition time box. And I'm sitting there going transition and birthday and kids and family and house and, just like mixing it all together. Right. So it was a recipe for trouble. But here's what the Lord told me from all of that. The piece I didn't realize, what the Lord gave me as my gift that year, is you are special. And here's what I knew with every fiber of my being. And this is why I commend this practice to you with my whole entire heart. He gave me the gift of you are special, that I might give you the gift of you are special. And that is one of the core tenets of this podcast, is that in all regards, you come to know and believe the blessing of the Father, that you are special. And how could you know that from me? At least how could, from many sources we can know things, right? But how could I communicate that to you were I not deeply aware of it myself? If I have not received that from the Father, I cannot give it to another. Brene Brown once said in a talk I heard her give that one of the most controversial and frustrating pieces of data that she has uncovered that people push against the most is the idea that we cannot give what we do not receive. In other words, we want to give our children and our significant others and the people in our workplaces and all of this stuff, we want to give them messages of love, of worthiness, of value, of courage, of integrity. But if we are not walking in those things ourselves, we have nothing to offer. That's a tough pill to swallow, because we're aware, right, of the gaps in our own self-care, the gaps in our own courage, the gaps in our own faith, in our own knowledge of our role as the beloved. We don't want to waste, we call it wasting our time. We don't want to waste our time, quote unquote, in receiving, because we want to hurry up and get the victory and the healing and all of that for our children. But here's the beautiful thing. Our kids, they're watching, and we think it's going to take forever, right? It's going to take forever to heal. The Lord can do it in a moment. In His grace and in His mercy, when it's time, it is just time. So our job is to lay our head on His chest and go, I trust your timing. And that was the thing that I learned right before my father's passing, is I had tried so long and so hard to kind of grab hold of that Father's blessing of knowing my place in God's kingdom, in His home. We can't manufacture it. It's just a gift from on high. It just is. And so He will give what He gives when He gives it. And our job is simply to come before Him and say, help me to be faithful with what you've given me today. Okay? So that's a beautiful thing. He will give what He gives when He gives it to us and to our children and to our spouses and to the people whom we serve. We cannot know what we do not know. We cannot be what we have not become. And so I speak all the grace over you, friend, today. And I also speak the message that I was given on my birthday almost a year ago, that you are special. You are bought with a price. You are here for a purpose. It is valuable to God. He invested much in you and will continue to do so. And none of your story is wasted. So that's just a couple of examples of what's been given to me over the course of my years of receiving birthday gifts from the Lord. Each one a little pebble in the foundation that has made me who I am, but more importantly, the stories that I have to share, the encouragement that I have to give, what it is. And now I commend this practice to you. I hand the baton to you and say, okay, here's your work. Set a reminder 1 or 2 weeks before your birthday and set it as recurring every year, so you never have to think about it again. Set it on your phone, write it on your paper calendar, whatever it is, to remember to ask the Lord, God, please show me what your gift is for me this year. And then you wait and give Him room to show you. And when He does, write it down, keep it somewhere safe and special, and celebrate the blessing. Okay, friend, what about you? Is this a practice that you do? What does it look like? How does it play out? And if you haven't done it yet, but you're going to, set a reminder on your phone, then tag me on Instagram, send me a message, let me know that you've done it. I cannot wait to celebrate this with you. Until next time, you've got this.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of She Considers a Field. If you found value in this episode, I would be so grateful if you would leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to share with a friend who needs some encouragement on her journey today, too. Until next time, remember, you've got this because he's got you.